July 8, 1898, Skagway, Alaska, a place teeming with the raw energy of the gold rush era. In this rugged frontier town, a committee of citizens, fed up with the rampant corruption and criminal activities of the notorious swindler Soapy Smith, rose up to re-establish order. Soapy Smith, a name that had become synonymous with deceit and criminal prowess, confronted this committee on the Juneau Wharf. His goal was clear: to intimidate these citizens and reinforce his iron grip on the town. But amidst this tension, a brave engineer named Frank stood up to Smith. In a heated moment that would go down in history, both men drew their weapons. This encounter, forever remembered as the Shootout on Juneau Wharf, marked a pivotal moment in the saga of the American West. Jefferson Randolph Soapy Smith, con artist, gangster, gambler, and a figurehead in the underworld of organized crime. His story remains one of the most infamous tales of deception and lawlessness in the American West. Jefferson Randolph, the Soapy Smith, was born on November 2, 1860 in Coweta County, Georgia, into an affluent family. His father, a lawyer, and his mother, from a respected family, provided him with a stable and comfortable upbringing. Smith's early life was marked by a basic education and a relatively privileged social status. However, the tumultuous period of the American Civil War and its aftermath had a profound impact on his family, as it did on many Southern families. The economic and social upheaval of the era likely played a significant role in shaping his future. The turning point in Smith's life came with the untimely death of his father. This loss, stripping away the family's main support, may have been the catalyst that set him on a different path. As a teenager, Smith began dabbling in minor scams and criminal activities. These early forays into deceit and trickery laid the groundwork for what would become a notorious career in con artistry. In his youth, Smith, like many others in the post-Civil War period, moved westward across the United States. This journey, a common narrative of the time, was either in search of new opportunities or perhaps to escape troubles back home. The prize soap racket. Soapy Smith relocated to Fort Worth, Texas, where he formed a tightly knit and disciplined gang of accomplices and thieves to work under his leadership. He quickly rose to notoriety as a prominent criminal boss. His gang of swindlers moved from city to city, exploiting unsuspecting victims and rigging poker games. Smith's most famous scam, dubbed the prize soap racket by the Denver newspapers, showcased his cunning and flair for deception. In this scheme, Smith set up a stand overflowing with bars of soap at a busy street corner. As he sold the soap, captivating a growing crowd with his smooth talk, he discreetly wrapped bills ranging from $1 to $100 around select bars. Then, he covered all the bars with ordinary wrappers to conceal the money. He gave the impression of mixing these prize soaps with regular ones and sold them to the eager crowd for $1 each. A plant in the crowd would buy a bar, open it, and jubilantly reveal the found money, spurring others to buy more. Amidst the sales frenzy, Smith would announce that the $100 bill was still in play, raising excitement and leading to the auctioning of the last few bars to the highest bidder. Through sleight of hand and cunning, the only winners were invariably his accomplices. In an ironic twist, Smith was arrested for the soap scam by police officer John Holland. While documenting the incident, Holland forgot Smith's name and, referencing the nature of the scam, recorded him as Soapy. This nickname stuck, and Smith became famously known as Soapy Smith. Friends, before we continue, you should know that making these kinds of videos requires a lot of time and effort, and a great way to show your appreciation is by subscribing, commenting, and liking. Let's carry on. The First Empire. When Soapy Smith arrived in Denver in 1879, the city was unaware of the monumental impact this man would have on its society. By 1882, Smith had successfully established the first of his 3 criminal empires. Unlike many swindlers of his era who preferred a nomadic existence to evade justice, Smith chose a different path: to plant roots in one place and expand his influence from there. Thanks to the growth of his power and his gang, Smith managed to weave a network of influence within the Denver City Council, allowing him to remain in the city with a significant degree of impunity. By 1887, Smith's presence in Denver had become all-encompassing. Rumors circulated that he was involved in most of the city's criminal activities. Denver newspapers frequently reported on his control over the underworld, highlighting his dominion over criminals and illegal gambling operations. Moreover, Smith wasn't just limited to conventional criminal activities. He was said to have corrupt politicians, and even the chief of police on his payroll, whom he bribed generously to ensure their protection and the freedom to operate without constraints.
There's only one man in Alaska who can get me if I'm ever gone. You'll be the man to do it. I know.
The Tivoli Club. In 1888, Soapy Smith unveiled the Tivoli Club, an establishment that blended the features of a saloon and a gambling house, located at the southeast corner of Market and 17th Street in Denver. As an ironic warning to its patrons, a sign above the gaming area proclaimed "Caveat emptor," a Latin phrase meaning "let the buyer beware." Smith's younger brother, Bascom Smith, joined the family enterprise, managing a cigar shop within the premises. However, this shop was merely a front for rigged poker games and various scams conducted in a concealed room. The operations of the Tivoli Club were diverse and deceptive. They extended to the sale of counterfeit lottery tickets, a surefire stock exchange, auctions of fake watches and imitation diamonds, and the marketing of shares in non-existent companies. Politics and other incidents. Soapy Smith's corrupt influence extended even to the police force, with some officers accepting bribes and turning a blind eye to his and his gang's activities. Those not on Smith's payroll often feared his notorious temper and propensity for violence. On the rare occasions when Smith or his men were arrested, they could invariably count on the support of friends, lawyers, and associates to secure their quick release. However, Smith was not without enemies and rivals in the criminal world. He survived several assassination attempts and did not hesitate to shoot those who threatened him. Over time, he became notorious for his gambling addiction and his volatile, unpredictable nature. The Second Empire. In 1892, as Denver embarked on a wave of reforms targeting gambling and saloons, Soapy Smith closed the chapter on the Tivoli and moved to Creede, Colorado. Creede was a booming mining town that had sprung up around a major silver mine. Using prostitutes from Denver to influence local proprietors and persuade them to sign lease contracts, Smith quickly acquired several lots along Creede's main street, which he subleased to his associates. Once his network of allies was established, he proclaimed himself the new leader of the mining camp. Assisted by his brother-in-law and fellow gang member, William Sidney Cap Light, who served as the deputy sheriff, Smith established his second empire. He opened the Orleans Club, a venue that combined a gambling hall and a saloon. Adding to his collection of attractions, Smith temporarily acquired and displayed a petrified man named McGinty, charging 10 cents for admission. He leveraged the queues of visitors to run shell games and three-card monte, further boosting his profits through additional scams. However, Creede's boom was short-lived. Upon hearing that the reforms in Denver were weakening, Smith decided to return to his former base of operations, taking McGinty with him. His departure was timely, as soon afterward, on June 5, 1892, a massive fire devastated much of Creede's commercial district, including the Orleans Club. Return to Denver, Colorado. Upon his return to Denver, Soapy Smith launched a series of businesses that served as fronts for his myriad of scams. Among these, a notable scheme involved the sale of purported discount railway tickets. Interested customers were told that the ticket agent was absent, but they could secure a discount by participating in various rigged games. Smith's influence had grown so extensive that he openly confessed to the press his status as a swindler, claiming he saw more honor in his profession than in the life of an average politician. In 1894, political tensions in Denver escalated with the election of Colorado's new governor, Davis Hanson Waite, who fired 3 city officials as part of an anti-corruption campaign. These officials, refusing to relinquish their positions, barricaded themselves in City Hall along with others at risk of losing their jobs. Governor Waite responded by calling in the state militia, armed with cannons and Gatling guns. Smith, aligning himself with the corrupt officials and City Hall police, was appointed a deputy sheriff. Armed with rifles and dynamite, Smith and his men occupied the central tower of City Hall, ready to defend their position. Eventually, Governor Waite decided to withdraw the militia, and the conflict shifted to the courts, where Smith played a crucial role as a witness in what would become known as the City Hall War. Following Governor Waite's order to shut down all gambling establishments, saloons, and brothels in Denver, Soapy Smith exploited his position as a deputy sheriff to conduct false arrests at his own gambling houses. Customers who had lost large sums in rigged poker games were apprehended. These victims, relieved to avoid jail and only lose their money, left without realizing the deceit they had fallen prey to. Over time, the notoriety of Soapy and his brother Bascom grew to such an extent that even the most corrupt officers could no longer protect them. After an altercation with a tavern manager led to charges of attempted murder, Bascom was imprisoned while Soapy fled, becoming a fugitive in Colorado. Before his escape, Smith had audaciously attempted to persuade Mexican President Porfirio Diaz of the need for a foreign legion composed of American thugs. Self-styled as Colonel Smith, he even established a recruitment office before the deal fell through. The Third Empire. As the Klondike Gold Rush erupted in 1897, Soapy Smith saw an opportunity and shifted his operations to Daya and Skagway. His initial attempt to establish himself in Skagway was thwarted when miners' committees pressured him to leave the area after operating three-card Monte and shell games on the White Pass Trail for less than a month. Following brief stints in St. Louis and Washington, D.C., Smith returned to Skagway in late January 1898. In Skagway, Smith replicated the successful model he had used in Denver and Creede. He added the town's deputy marshal to his payroll and began recruiting allies to solidify his power. Smith set up a sham telegraph office where cables went no further than the wall. This office not only charged for sending messages that were never transmitted, but it also became a venue where unsuspecting victims, laden with cash, ended up losing more in poker games with their new friends. It's noteworthy that real telegraph lines did not reach Skagway until 1901. In March 1898, Smith opened Jeff Smith's Parlor, a saloon that became the headquarters for his operations. Though Skagway had an official municipal building, Smith's saloon earned the reputation of being the real city hall. Soapy Smith's henchmen took on various roles, such as newspaper reporters or clerics, with the aim of gaining the trust of newcomers and figuring out how to strip them of their money. Unsuspecting individuals were led by their friends to various businesses, hotels, or corrupt gambling dens until they were bankrupt. If someone appeared troublesome or unrecruitable for the gang, Smith personally offered to pay for their return trip to civilization. Facing the threat of expulsion by a vigilante committee, the Committee of 101, Smith formed his own law and order society, claiming it had 317 members, in an effort to intimidate the vigilantes. As many small-time swindlers and con artists left Skagway, Smith sought other means to improve his image in the community. During the Spanish-American War in 1898, Smith created his own militia of volunteers, the Skagway Military Company, endorsed by the U.S. War Department, and appointed himself as captain. He managed to obtain official recognition of his venture from President William McKinley, which he used to further reinforce his dominance over the city. On July 4, 1898, Smith led the 4th Division of the Independence Day Parade atop his gray horse, sitting alongside the territorial governor and other officials in the VIP stand. The death of Soapy Smith. On July 7, 1898, a pivotal incident sealed the fate of Soapy Smith. John Douglas Stewart, a miner returning from the Klondike with a sack of gold valued at $2,700, equivalent to over $80,000 today, was duped by 3 members of Smith's gang into a game of three-card Monte. When Stewart resisted paying his alleged losses, the gang members snatched his sack of gold and fled. The Committee of 101, a local vigilante group, demanded that Smith return the gold, but he refused, claiming Stewart had lost it fairly in the game. The situation escalated on the afternoon of July 8th, during a vigilante committee meeting at the Juneau Wharf. Smith, armed with a Winchester rifle, confronted Frank H. Reed, one of the 4 men blocking his access to the wharf. In the altercation, known as the shootout at Juneau Wharf, both men were critically injured. According to a letter from Sam Steele, the renowned head of the Canadian Mounted Police at the time, another guard, Jesse Murphy, might have fired the fatal shot. Smith died instantly from a gunshot wound to the heart, and also sustained a bullet wound in his left leg and a severe injury to his left arm at the elbow. Reed died 12 days later from wounds to his leg and groin. The 3 gang members involved in Stewart's robbery were subsequently sentenced to prison. Soapy Smith's body was buried some distance from the municipal cemetery, marking the end of a turbulent era in Skagway's history. Unfortunately, America will always have individuals who only see prosperity through taking advantage of others, like Bernard Madoff, the greatest swindler in history. If you want to know his story, here is the video of the world's biggest swindler.